Welcome to the Tuesday Night Live Show. I'm Santa Bob McMasters, and this is June 28th, 2022. Tonight's guest can be described as funny, witty, charismatic, and magical. Larry is a devoted Christian, family man, and businessman. He is the creator of a children's book that his printer entered in the national and state competitions for printers, and the book won a total of 5 state and 3 international awards, including Best New Children's Book and Best New Concept. On top of all this, he also performs as a professional Santa. Please stay with us. We have a lot more coming up with our special guest in just a moment. We'll be right back. This is Tuesday Night Live. Welcome back to our show. And at this time, let's bring in our guest co-host and give him, as well as our producer, a warm welcome. Say hello to Spangle and Angela Mack.
Hey, hello, everybody. It's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's a good night. We got a great guest, and so we're really excited. It's week 25 of season 2, and I think most everyone can agree that tonight's guest is a fascinating and funny man. Before we bring out this week's guest, though, let's do this, followed by Sleigh Driver Apparel Trivia. Okay, so don't forget that the replays of Tuesday Night Live can be watched now on our YouTube channel. Please go over, like, and subscribe. The first half of tonight's Tuesday Night Live Show Trivia is sponsored by Derek Dugan's Sleigh Driver Apparel Company. We want to thank Derek so much for all he does. All right, guys, this week's trivia movie is in the Muppet Christmas Carol. Who takes on the role of Marley? In the Muppets Christmas Carol, who takes on the role of Marley? You get those answers into the comment box. The first one with the correct answer, of course, will win a trivia gift from Derek Dugan. Remember, guys, if you've won in the last 30 days, you are in the Scott Parker timeout corner. I want to say hello to Scott tonight. See he's on. Gordon Bailey, Rex Ray, Jeff Ouellette. Got lots of good guys on here tonight. McLowry, Sal Sid, Ron McClam. Good to have everyone on tonight.
Fantastic.
In the Muppet Christmas Carol, who takes on the role of Marley? All right, so while everyone is submitting some answers, either that or working the keyboards, whichever one it is, we're going to go ahead and move along. So we're going to move on to this next.
The first half of tonight's Tuesday Night Live Show is brought to you by Derek Dugan's Sleigh Driver Apparel Company. You can find Derek's store on Etsy.com/shop/Sleigh Driver Apparel or contact Derek Dugan for all your custom apparel needs. Now back to our show with Bob Spangle and Angela. This is Tuesday Night Live.
All right. Tonight's guest was born in Richmond, Virginia, and makes his home along with his wife and 5 children in Lawrenceville, Georgia. He attended Georgia Southwestern State University and was also an English tutor there. He wears many hats, as we will find out tonight. He can be seen speaking and performing throughout the year and will be doing his next presentation at the School of Santa's July 14th. Please give him a warm Tuesday Night Live welcome to tonight's special guest. And if he didn't do no magical disappearing yet, we have Mr. Larry Talbert.
Wow. Hey, thanks for the invitation. I do appreciate it. And the round warm of applause. Yes. I know. Great, Spankles.
Hey, we're excited to have you tonight, Larry. It's great to see you again and finally have you on our show. We talked about this last year at the School of Santas, and we're supposed to have you on earlier this year, and your schedule was so busy. You're a busy man. So, all right, so let's get going here. And first off, I want to talk about your early years, where your youth pastor would incorporate magic tricks into his lessons. Share with us about that and the story of when he took you to the Magic in Atlanta.
Oh yeah, he was an amazing magician. He was a great youth minister. He took us all over the United States. We did drama tours. We did all kinds of with the church. And one of the things he would do is we'd have these talent shows, and he would always get up and do a couple of magic tricks. Well, because of that, I became fascinated in magic, and he knew that. So one day he came to me and he called and said, "Hey, listen, I've got to go downtown to Magic. Are you interested in going with me?" And today this will never happen. But I talked to my parents. I said, "Is it okay?" And they said, "Absolutely." So I jumped in the car with them. We went down to Magic, which is a magic shop downtown Atlanta. Spent about 2.5 hours just perusing through stuff, and they were showing tricks and all these things. And I bought my first 2 or 3 magic tricks right there on the spot. And I still do those magic tricks today, which is really kind of funny.
That's a great story. I love that. And, I don't care who you are, magic is cool. And when you're a youngster, it's really, it just really it gets a grip on you. And I can see how you got hooked right then and there. Spangle?
What was your first magic trick?
Well, actually, my first magic trick was the magic coloring book, which basically spearheaded the product that I produced, which was Twas the Night Before Christmas, Magical Presentation. I brought it back with that. I also had one that was a rope trick, which I translated into Santa magic also, with 3 ropes that start out different sizes and become the same and then go back to different sizes. So those were the 2 things that I really bought right away. There's 1 or 2 others don't really apply, but I don't remember what the names of them were, but it was a lot of fun. I really had a great time with it, and just kept taking it further and further up until I went off to college and put it all in a box and stuck it in my mother's attic.
Understand that box of stuff.
It's either a box or a drawer full. You got somewhere you got to stick that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I got a whole room full of magic tricks. Hi. Anyway, hey, brother, sticking to your early years, tell us about your other interests back then, such as sports. Did you play any sports in school or college?
Well, actually, when I was in high school, my freshman year, I played football the very first year. I weighed 135 pounds. I was 6 foot tall. They made me a tackle. I got knocked out in my first game. That was the last of my football career. Went off to college and was an English major in college, and tutored English and worked in the college cafeteria and ended up as a chef supervisor ultimately, which was kind of cool. And then I was a resident assistant for the dormitory as well, and remodeling of a 100-year-old house on the weekends, and that's the way I paid for college. Didn't have a lot of help from my parents on that. My father was changing jobs and just didn't have the money to help me, so I paid for it myself. And that was college for me, mostly working.
Well, Larry, you eventually followed your father into the insurance business, and magic remained forgotten until about 10 years ago. You and your wife were on a family trip with your 5 children to the Universal Studios in Orlando and caught a magic show, Harry Potter World. Okay, we want to know the full story on the Fire Wallet and how your wife convinced you to go buy it, and now how you use it in your business presentations.
It was really funny. We went to Harry Potter World, and like I've always been a man by magic, and I've always loved it. So anyway, they happened to have a magic show while they were there, and so I thought, you know what, let's go just watch and see what this guy has to do. And one of the things that he did, one was thumb tip lights, which was really kind of cool. I thought that was pretty neat. And then he did this fire wallet. And the fire wallet, basically what happened was when he opened it up, it burst into flames, and flames got 6 or 8 inches out of it. And he closed it up, and he says, wow, it's really hot in here. And I thought, wow, that is such a cool magic trick. And my wife was watching me, and I said, man, that I'd just love to have one of those. But I just didn't want to spend the money. It was not inexpensive. It was a $450 wallet. And I said, yeah, I just don't think I want to do it. Well, we left, started walking around the park, and all I did was talk about this wallet for about 6 more hours. And she finally got sick of it, and she says, listen, just go buy the stupid wallet. You'll figure out something to do with it. I'm sure you can use it in your business. And I'm like, what in the world am I going to do with a wallet that bursts into flames in my business? And so I went back. She says, if you don't buy it, I'm going to go back and buy it, and I'll meet you at the car. So I decided to go back. I did go buy it just so I could, save face. And and we took it home, and I joined the Chamber of Commerce for the insurance agency, and went to an event, and they said, well, I had to have a elevator speech, and they said it needed to be about 45 seconds long. And I thought, wow, what am I going to do? I didn't plan on this. And I happen to have this wallet, and I happen to have some lighter fluid in my car. So I went out and set it up and came back in and did my elevator speech. My elevator speech basically was I was very descriptive with what I did. I didn't want to just tell them what I do for a living. I just wanted to show them what I do for a living. And I opened my wallet, it burst into flames. I said, what I do for a living is I stop your money from burning a hole in your wallet on your insurance. And when I finished with it, there were about 150 people. Gwinnett County Chamber of Commerce is the third largest chamber in the United States. They said that is the coolest presentation, elevator speech we have ever seen. And kind of where it started. And that year we were voted best in Gwinnett. Now it was 11 years ago. We've been voted best in Gwinnett ever since, which was kind of cool. And for insurance, and the wallet really is what did it. It wasn't anything else. They would look at me, they remember me for the wallet, but the only other reason they'd remember me is one, I don't look like an insurance agent, not your regular insurance agent. I have a shaved head, and my hair was darker at the time, and I looked more like a wrestler. All my cookie zone was way up higher. I think this area up here where it's supposed to be. And then it progressively fell. I don't understand gravity. Gravity stinks. I need to stay on an inversion tape. But anyway, people thought I was more of a wrestler or that type of person when they saw me, and the wallet kind of changed all that. So that's kind of how I got started with it. And I would go to Chamber of Commerce meetings. I'd goof off with magic, and anything I could do to tie magic to my business. I had quite a few tricks that I would do that basically told a story, and everything was about the story. It wasn't just about me doing a magic trick. There had to be a purpose behind it. So I would have things that would talk about equipment coverage for someone, or I would have something that would talk about liability insurance, and I'd have a magic trick that I would be doing with it, and it would create a memory for those people. Memories were more important than giving them stuff. Most agents would give items away, and that was not me. They take them home, they give them to their kids, and then their kids throw them away, and they really don't serve any purpose. Well, what I gave them was something that created memory that they would keep. So that's kind of how I started.
Very cool. I used to carry that wallet everywhere I go, and I liked going into Walmart or Kmart or someplace like that and get ready to pay my bill, and I'd open it up, and the flames would come out. I'm like, oh, can't use that card. That one's stolen. That's a little hot, and people would just freak out. I carried it so much that it seemed like I had a constant lighter fluid burn on the inside or on my leg,
Yeah.
from it leaking a little bit. And it had to be ready all the time. So I always had to have it soaked, and I had to soak it too much. That way I could do it over and over,
But that was me. I actually would go to Chamber of Commerce events, and they would have trade shows. And I would take a magician with me with a giant mind-reading rabbit which was a 32-pound Flemish giant bunny rabbit, which is a whole different story. But what he would do is he'd segue people to me and tell people that what I bought my insurance from this guy. He'll show you why, and we go right straight back to the I stopped your money from burning a hole in your pocket. So it worked out very well for me in the insurance business, and helped us grow substantially over the last 10 to 15 years. But
30.
now, well, my total career has been 30 years in the insurance business. I can't believe I've been this long.
The 32-pound rabbit sounds like a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes. I did make a mistake and take the rabbit to a Tennessee Land Surveying Council meeting, and everybody there just looked at him and they were drooling, and they didn't care about the magic. They just wanted to eat the rabbit, and
Right.
it was a little scary for the poor little critter, but you know, that's the way it goes.
Hey, the barbecue sauce didn't get poured on him. He's all right.
Yeah, he was fine.
Right.
He was scared a couple times though.
All right, Larry. So we'll talk more about insurance for not only those in the Red Sea community, but entertainers later in the show. But for now, let's transition to how you became Santa. You and your wife were at a mall at Christmas one year, and she observed Santa taking pictures. And she looked over at you and she said to you, when you retire, that's what you're going to do. There's a story behind this. I know there is. So share that part of the story all the way up until the magic coloring book for us. Yeah,
it was very interesting because what happened was my wife and I would go to the mall, and she wanted to go shopping, and we went over to one of the malls here, and she goes over and looks at Santa, and she looked at me, and she looked at Santa, and she looked at me, and she says, "You need to do that when you retire." She said, "That would be a great job for you." And she found out how much money the guy was making, and she said, "That's a great job for you when you retire." And so that was kind of the first time. And then we started hiring Santas because of all our kids. We would hire Santas, and the Santas would come to our house. And by the time we were done, I was just joking and laughing and having a good time with them. And they would say, "Gosh, you know, why don't you come and join us?" And I said, "I really appreciate it." I said, look at this. I've got 5 kids. I'm not, I'm not ready for anything like this. And I had that happen twice. And then I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting, and there's this guy there named Santa Rick Rosenthal. And Santa came to me, and he looks at me, and after he watched me do all these magic tricks, he looks at me and he says, "Hey, you should be a Santa." And I said, "You are the 3rd Santa Claus that approached me with this." I said, "I appreciate it. I said, at some point in time, maybe yes, but right now, I'm just not sure that's for me." And I said, on top of that, I know who he is, I know what he does, but I have no idea how to be him. And he looked at me and he says, "Well, that's why you go to Santa school." And I thought, wow, this is my out. I said, "Listen, if there's a Santa school within 30 miles of me, I'll go, but I'm not going to Pennsylvania or Philadelphia or any place like that to go to Santa school to learn how to be Santa." He says, "Well, as a matter of fact, there's one in Alpharetta." I looked on my phone, GPS, it was 28 miles. So I was going to Santa school. I live up to all the commitments I ever make. Whenever I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I do it. And I called my wife, and I said, "Hey, listen, you want to go to Santa school with me?" And she thought I was joking, because I sent her a picture of Rick and said, he was asking me if I'd go. And she thought I was joking. She says, "Yeah, sure." So I signed us both up. And that was the first school I ever went to. And I went, and it was the most amazing bunch of guys, just in general. Everybody as a whole, they were just really helpful and very, very caring. And you could tell they loved people, and they just really talked about what they did with such love. And that inspired me. And so because of that, I actually did some work for him as an agent. He was also an agent, and that was at Northern Lights Santa Academy. But he was an agent, and I said, "Well, why don't you book me for some stuff?" So he did. And then I started booking some of my own stuff and having a good time. But what I found out when I was talking to all these guys was that there was a real problem. A lot of them wouldn't want to go do a home visit. I said, "Well, why is it you don't want to do a home visit?" And they said, "Well, the problem with doing home visits is that you get hired for an hour, hour and a half. You go in, you have pictures taken, you tell some stories, you do a couple of things with the kids. All of a sudden, all the children lose interest, and you look at your watch, and you've been hired for an hour, hour and a half, and now you have 35 or 40 minutes that you've got to fill that you don't have anything to do there. So you sneak out the back, people get upset, or you feel awkward trying to leave early, and that was a real problem. So I went back to my grassroots and started thinking, well, Santa could be magical. He could do magical stuff, and that's kind of how I got started. And ever since then, I finally got to a point where it's like, you know what? I don't have time. I'm an insurance agent. That's what I do for a living. I don't have time to be a insurance agent, book a bunch of events, and go to these events. And I realized I was spending just as much time going to these events as I was booking the events and getting contracts and collecting money and then collecting the balance and negotiating the terms and doing all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm spending too much time doing this. So that's the reason I use an agent, and that's the kind of Santa I am. I don't do anything on my own. I always use Santa Rick. So he's done a great job for me.
Yeah, that is one thing that a lot of guys that are starting out don't really understand about being an independent Santa, as we term them. All the work and dedication that goes into setting yourself up to be successful with, like you say, contracts, collecting, that sort of thing. So an agent is a great way to do things.
Yeah. I mean, and there's all kinds of great Santa agents out there. You just have to pick the right one. And there are a lot of bad ones, though. So you make sure that you follow all the Santa websites and all the Santa Facebook pages, because they'll tell you which ones are good and which ones are not, and who pays you and who doesn't pay you and who treats you right and who doesn't. Those are real important things.
Yeah, I think we've all seen those posts on many of the pages, and that is a great resource for sure. All right, so right here, Larry, is where we normally take a little short breather, give you a chance to take a breath, collect your thoughts for a moment while we do a special product announcement. So stay with us. On the other side of this, we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Stop the show. It's that time. It's the Tuesday Night Live Showstopper Special. And for this week's StufferSanta.com Showstopper Special, Spangle is going to show you a fantastic new item that he has. Over to you, Spangle.
All right, guys. I got to scoot back for this one. We have our new North Pole flag. This thing is 3 feet by 5 feet. It's the unofficial flag of the North Pole. It's grommets right here where you can hang it on your flagpole. We've been selling these on a pre-sale for $25. They are in right now. They will be shipping out right away. All new orders that come through and will be $20. And we'll ship it to you free even. Beautiful flag. 3 feet by 5 feet.
Yeah,
Anyways, let us know.
For that price, you could afford to buy a dozen of them and give them away to those very special children at Christmas time, those that really touch your heart. Say, here's something I brought you from the North Pole.
Yeah, that'd be great. You listening to that, Larry?
And that will run till next Monday, correct, Spangle?
Till next Monday, yep. $20. But don't tell anybody.
Very good. All right, so everybody be sure to get your order in, get with Spangle on that one. And now we're going to go on to the next.
You are watching Tuesday Night Live with Bob Spangle and Angela. Sponsored by StuffForSanta.com and SchoolOfSantas.com, where you can find everything you need for your Santa and Mrs. Claus professional business. Remember, if Spangle ain't got it, You just don't need it or it just don't exist. So contact Spangle today for all your red suit accessories and more. And be sure and tell everyone where you got all that cool stuff. Now back to our show with Bob, Angela, and, of course, more Spangle with trivia fun.
All right.
All right. Tonight, the winner will get the flag. Also, if the winner wants two of them, that means they would actually get two of these flags for only $20. Hey, anyways, in the movie Fred Claus, what song plays during the opening chase scene? In the movie Fred Claus, what song plays during the opening chase scene?
Yes, this
Well,
is
go ahead.
very tricky song. It's one that sticks in your head and you can't get rid of it. You wake up for a week with it in your head playing.
Let me say, while they're at the keyboards trying to find out that answer, let me tell you, there are 3 seats only available for the School of Santas. July 14th to the 17th. Just three seats. Go on and get in there. All the fun, get in there. We're going out as a group. We do a parade kind of like through town. We bring havoc to the city of Branson for a little while. Lots of entertainment, all your meals, all that's included.
Yes, it is. It's a great time. I'm really looking forward to it. Me and Larry was talking earlier about how much fun it was in the past, and hope that the hotel still has the dessert bar.
Oh,
As
yeah.
far as I know, they do. I'm going to have to check on that, though.
Check on that for us, because that's another highlight right there, sitting in the little breakfast room eating some of the desserts that they have, cookies and
Cobblers and ice cream.
all that stuff.
That's the only reason why you all wanted to go back.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well,
Hey, we have nightly entertainment every night.
Yeah, it's all fun and everything, but I have to nibble on that dessert bar. I can't have too much of it. All right, then. Submit your answers there. There was a couple of people in the comments earlier, Spangle, said they wanted one of those flags, so we'll have them reach out to you after the show and get their name, and you can get them a flag.
All right, we'll do it.
All right, Larry, let's get back in and pick up at the conception of your award-winning children's book. It was born out of the idea that you had after Rick's school. The question was, what could Santas do to fill those minutes with kids who were fast losing attention during the visit? You touched on that before, but let's go into and talk about your book.
Yeah, this all came back out of the magic coloring book that I had learned how to do when I was a kid, and basically what it was I thought it'd be really cool if Santa's telling a story every year. You do 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I mean, that's pretty much a staple for every Santa to go and tell the story at home visits or school visits. I've done it at schools. I've done it at nursing homes. I've done it all over the place. And the thing about it is the pictures and the words. When you show them this book, initially there's nothing on the pages. They're just a bunch of blank pages. Second time you flip through the pages, all the words appear after they help you with putting them in there. And I have different ways that I'll do that. Then I turn around the third time around, you flip through the pages the third time, and all the pictures and the words appear, and you can, with gloves, tell the story. Well, anyway, that came out of Northern Lights Santa Academy when I was doing their school there. And I asked a few of the guys, I said, would you guys be interested in buying this book if I produced it? And they said, yes, I would. So anyway, I went to a couple of printers and book manufacturers and found out that that none of them were interested. And I actually had a real good friend of mine who was a printer, and he sat down with a bottle with a bottle of Jack Daniels. I found out later, and came up with the method that he could produce this book for me. And when he told me how many I would have to produce in order to make it an economical book, it was over 1,000 copies I would have to print. So I called a couple more of my friends and said, "Hey guys, in this book," and a lot of them said absolutely. So anyway, I produced the book and went to the school and presented it at school, and sold 150 copies to 100 Santas. I actually had another vendor that wanted to buy some also while I was there, and it worked out exceptionally well. So anyway, sold those books. Well, I get a call from my printer, and he says, "Listen, Larry, I need you to look like Santa Claus in August." Well, I look like this all year, and I can grow a beard, and a lot of people, I can grow a beard in 6 to 8 weeks. Full blown beard. If you ever look at my any of my pages or anything, that's my 6-week beard, and it's a pretty full beard. It's very thick, and so a lot of people were envious of that, and they get upset with me. But I had to look like this in August. Well, I wasn't used to having hair on my face in August. It's hot. I'm telling you, I know you guys that have your beards year round are warm during the month of August. And they told me that my printer called me and I said, "Well, why do you want me to do that?" He said, "Well, we just won 8 awards, 3 international and 5 state level awards for this book." And they said they want you to go to the Fox Theater downtown Atlanta and accept the awards at the International Printers Association meeting. So I went down there and dressed like Santa and did all my thing right in the middle of August. It was very warm. Thank goodness they had the air blowing pretty hard in the theater, and accepted the awards. Well, the thing that was funny about it was after I presented it and I came back to the next Santa school, people said, "Wow, that was great. We really enjoyed it. What's next?" And I said, "Listen, I made my contribution, guys. I went through a lot of expense putting this new contribution together, but they asked me for something else." Well, I started thinking about it, and I thought, you know what? In my presentation, I talked about Santa making snow, and so I decided I could make snow right there on the spot. And a lot of Santas here now are familiar with the product. It basically helps them make snow appear out of nowhere, basically. Right there, so I produced snow for the kids. But there was all kinds of little things that I looked at, and I thought, wow, these, just like with my insurance business, I would find things and I think, wow, that would really be a great thing for Santa to be able to do. So we came up with Scrooge's nut and bolt. I'm sorry, the Grinch. Grinch's nut and bolt, not Scrooge, I'm sorry. The Grinch's nut and bolt that unscrews itself automatically right there in their hand, which is kind of cool. We came up with just one trick after the other to basically add to what I was doing at these events. So now when they book me for home events, they book me for a minimum of 2 hours because I've got enough material to sit there and just keep going. I can tell stories. I can do magic tricks. I can do things that are magical, not become a magician for the children, but I can do things that are magical for those kids. And we're always adding new things. And when it comes to the Christmas time, since I have a beard, I dress in bib overalls that are all embroidered and look like Santa all the time. So I do magic when I'm out, and I happen to run into children. We have now what's called Santa's Report Card, which is an outstanding product. Sold tons of them when we went to the International Santa Celebration, and it's a new product that is kind of neat. If you get a chance, you can look at my website and you can see it. But it sold like crazy. Everybody who saw it bought up to 3, 4, 5 packs of these things, and super simple type of tricks. But that's what I had to do. The thing that I had to do when I was developing these magic tricks for Santa Clauses was I had to realize, a lot of us have either arthritis or we have issues where it's just not easy for us to learn and do elaborate type of elaborate things with our hands, we don't want to spend a lot of time learning how to do magic. In other words, you don't want to be a magician. But if you can take a few minutes and learn how to do a couple of little things that are magical, you can really impress children more and parents more than you could without doing these things, which I feel pretty happy that I've been able to do that. The one thing that I told everybody was you have to be able to do all the magic tricks I do for Santa have to be able to be done with gloves on and having arthritis. And if you have either one of those things, everything we produce for Santa Clauses can be done with gloves and with arthritis. But that book is really what spearheaded the whole thing. And now we distribute those all over the world. I've shipped them, and we've actually been nominated for another award this year with the book, which was kind of cool.
That is cool. Spangle, you know what his website is? Can you tell the folks?
Yeah, santamagic.pro. That is santamagic.pro.
That's correct.
Santa Magic Pro. Yeah.
Reach out and look at the things that Larry offers on there. And, you know, if you run into anything you don't understand, Larry's always accessible. He has nothing else to do.
No. Actually, you know what? One of my favorite things to do, to be honest,
yeah,
is talk to Santa Clauses. I love talking to entertainers and professional entertainers. When they call me and they have questions, and they say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? I love getting a chance to talk to them because everybody's got such great stories to tell. And so if you just all of a sudden you just want to call me, my number's on the website. You can ask Spangles, you can ask Bob. Everybody's got my phone number. And I'd love to just sit and chat with you if you have questions, or if you think, hey, maybe I want to do this or I don't want to do this, but I'm interested in something else. I'm always there to talk.
Very expensive.
You know, I've been by his insurance agency a couple times, and I've even tried to call him a few times. And it seems like I always hear this thing that says, tell him I'm on the other line, or tell him I'm not here. That's Spangle.
Well,
if you're looking for me, I'm under the desk. Don't let him know.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, occasionally there are those people. They just want to talk too much. Okay.
Anyway, always accessible, and that's what's going to bring us to the next subject that we're going to get into here, Larry. Becoming Santa ended up becoming very good for Talbert Insurance as well. You discovered yet another gap in the community's resources. Many liability programs for magicians and Santas are limited in the kind of things they cover, things an entertainer might naturally encounter. Tell us about how you filled that gap with the package your company was already selling to actors, puppeteers, and storytellers, but it hadn't marketed to the Santa magician or clown community.
Yeah, we actually had a program that we'd developed for professional entertainers, and it was a professional entertainers of all different sorts. And actually, there are association programs out there you can get that cover your liability through a couple of, through I think Clowns of America has one, iBurbs has one, a couple of other people have them. But the problem that I found with almost all these is the fact that they cover your liability and that's it. They don't cover anything else. And the problem that we have as Santa Clauses is all of a sudden we go over to Spangle's shop or one of the other guys' shops, and we look at the stuff he has and we think, wow, it would be great to have one of these suits, because he sells some absolutely gorgeous suits. So I buy one of these suits over there. Now I'm into something for $900 or $1,000. And I go and I think, you know what? I need that green suit that Spangles has too. And I need this suit and I need that one. I need a bag. And all of a sudden you turn around and you've got $4,000 or $5,000 worth of stuff. Then some of us have our own thrones. That's me. Others of us have our own sleighs. And all this stuff adds up. And the problem that you ran into was nobody thought about the fact that this is considered business personal property if you're portraying Santa and you're doing it and you're getting paid for this. It's not personal property like you keep at your house, even though you may have it at your house. And what happens is business personal property is excluded under your homeowner's policy, or if it does have a little bit of coverage, it's just that, a very little bit of coverage. So I realized, I had suits in my house and all this magic and all these. I have my Santa bag that was $400 or $500. I have a couple of those actually now. I've got 3 or 4 suits, and now I've bought some from Doug. And some, and just that you get to where you've got $3,000 or $4,000 in each suit, and if that were damaged at an event or stolen, or if it's in my house and there was a pipe burst and ruins my suits, or there was a fire and ruins my suits, all that stuff's not covered under my homeowner's policy. Well, that's a lot of money I've got tied up in it. So what we did is we built a program that would cover all those things, both at home, when you go on what they call on set, when you're going out to a job, and in transit. So you've got your sleigh on the back of the truck, you take it, somebody rear ends you, destroys your sleigh, you've got some coverage for that. Traditionally, you don't have that. And you can do this for very little money, which is nice. The prices range from about $300 to $350. You cover your liability. Depends on how much stuff you have, pricing. But it also covered your professional liability. So that was another thing that was not covered under the association plans. And what that is that's your oops insurance. Somebody says you did not perform the duties that you were paid to do, or you didn't show up because you double booked and they spent $4,000 or $5,000 advertising that you were going to be there, and they couldn't find a replacement that was adequate. So they come back and say, we want our money back. Well, that's professional liability. That's services either rendered or not rendered. And then we give you in that same policy the $25,000 of professional services insurance, along with your $1 million coverage with a $2 million aggregate on your general liability. The other thing that would pop up is, let's say, for example, you're at home, or you go home and all the suits are destroyed and you've got events. It happens November 24th. And you've got events booked all that next week, and you have no suit to wear. Well, you've got 2 choices. One, you cancel all your events because you just can't afford to go out and buy another bunch of suits, or the policy that we offer pays your loss of income or extra expense for you to go out and rent the suits if that's what you need to do. We'll pay the extra expense for you to do that, as well as replace those suits as quickly as we possibly can. But if in the event you can't do that, we pay your loss of income. So you've got $600 or $1,000 or $2,000 worth of work that you're supposed to do in the next 2 weeks. It takes us 2 weeks to get all those suits back to you. You still get paid, which is kind of cool. That's a real big benefit, all for the same pricing structure that you would go through an association. The other thing that happens on it, you get your own policy. You don't just get a certificate, so you're not part of a big group. It's your own policy. You get a free background check built into it. There's other business services that we offer that are included in it that you can just go through and look at, accounting, things like that you're interested. But the biggest thing is that you get a free background check in addition to it, and you don't have to join any groups or associations in order to have it. So those are the things that have been positive from that standpoint. The other thing it does is if you have a Mrs. Claus or elves, it covers Mrs. Claus and the elves. You don't have to add them. We cover you and up to 3 people working with you at no additional cost. If you decide at some point in time you want to be a pirate because you got this great beard, you could be, pirate the white beard, or pirate whatever. Or you could be any type of character. You could be a storyteller. You could be a clown. You could be a magician. You could be whatever you want to do. You are a performer. Our policy covers it. And you don't have to endorse or add anything. You don't have to add those extra people. They're automatically covered under the policy. So it makes it very, very simple process to have really good coverage, not just adequate coverage, to make sure that you don't have a loss doing what you love.
Man, those are all great, very valid points that you have that just not talked about in the Santa community. People just, go for the boilerplate standard, as you call it, association, and don't think about the real implement. What could happen if something went wrong, and that's such a great point.
It's it's such a broad coverage, and the thing is, the way that you can actually do a quote, you've got a couple of different ways. One, you can just call me and I'll help you walk right straight through it. If you don't want to talk to me about it, you just say, hey, I just want to kick the tires, see how much it would cost me. You can actually go to santamagic.pro, and at the top, there's a link that says Professional Christmas Entertainers Insurance. You click on that, and you can do a quote and answer about 5 questions, and you can have a price and see exactly what's going to cost you to do things. You can actually change it around. You can play with it. If you say, well, I've got $25,000 worth of stuff, I've got $100,000 of revenue, congratulations. Santa, I'll tell you, you're my idol if that's the case. But if you do all those things, you can see exactly how much that policy will cost you at the end of the day. And if you like it, you can actually click on Pay Now, and with your credit card, go ahead and it'll issue the policy and email you the policy the next day. Get your background check the next day, get all your certificates done immediately for all the vendors that you're working for. Very, very simple. Everything is easy. Like my kids used to say when they were little, easy peasy.
Gordon Bailey has a question. Does it cover molestation?
No, it does not. The abuse and molestation coverage, when you look at the association plans, I've actually pulled them up, and I should have probably put this together for you. Didn't think that would come up, but when you look at the abuse and molestation coverage on the policies, the association policies, I've actually read the policies. The difference between our policy and theirs is about 140 pages. Ours is about 35 pages. It does not cover abuse and molestation. The abuse and molestation clause, when you read the actual sections of it, one, it excludes it, and then it adds it back later. The way that they add it back, though, it doesn't cover you as the owner, because that would be considered a criminal act when you're doing abuse and molestation. But if your Elf or your Mrs. Claus commits those things, it protects you, not them, protects you against that abuse and molestation claim. I went to one of the associations, one of the major associations for you guys, and asked them, I said, how many claims have ever been paid on this? And they said 0 since day one. Not one claim has ever been paid under their policy form. I said, how much has been paid in expenses? Because there's 2 different parts of a claim. There's expenses. They don't count that initially. They just talk about the claims payments or claim settlements. The expenses were 0 also. Well, if you have a suit that the company is going to defend ever, and they'd had 2 incidents reported, you're going to have some kind of claims expense. There were no claims expenses. Not 1 penny was paid in claims expense or loss. So when you read the policy form, it's not covering what you think it's covering. It's a misunderstanding of the policy form, and that's the worst time to figure these things out.
Well, Larry, you got the opportunity to talk with Mark Daniel, the director of Cadabra, about your revamped entertainers insurance that leads you to being asked to do a presentation for them. Next, you had to scramble to get a license in all 50 states so you could keep up with the quotes. Share that experience and story with our viewers.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because when I started with this thing, I was licensed in about 4 or 5 states, and I had several customers that were coming to me, and as the people started talking about the coverage, I started getting all these calls from other folks. Well, anyway, I happened to be Cadabra happened to be really close to my office, so I ran over just to take a look and see what it was. Well, when I went in and started talking to him, I was telling him a little bit about our program. He says, "Oh my gosh, this is so much better than what we had." He said, "Would you come and talk about that?" And I said, "Sure, anytime. Just let me know whenever." He says, "How about tomorrow?" I was like, "You want me to talk tomorrow?" Well, I didn't have anything. I didn't have any brochures printed. I had nothing. So I had to go back to my office, which happened to be only about 1.5 miles away. And I started putting together the presentation. And I got up there and did a presentation on the insurance. Because of that, and when I was talking to people, they were just so much more happy with the fact that they could cover all their stuff in addition to their liability for about the same price that they were paying to the associations, that they came back and said that they wanted me to do their insurance. Well, they were in all these different states. And then the Santas the same way, because I did the same thing with each one of the schools I've gone to. I do a little presentation, explain our benefit, the benefits of our policy versus everybody else's. And it's been growing rapidly throughout the community. Each person gets their own policy, and it doesn't cover everybody. It's not always everything for everybody. And I tell people that, if you're working for a mall that requires a 2 million, 4 million limit, this is not the policy. Go to the association plan and go ahead and get that. If you want to cover all your stuff, call me. We'll do just your stuff if we need to, or it may be even beneficial to have both policies if you have a lot of stuff that you want to cover. But what I have found is the vast majority of us, this is more than adequate coverage, a much broader policy, and priced the way that people the insurance.
Well, very good. All right, Larry. At this point, let's go out to our viewers and see if they have any questions or comments for you, folks. If you do, throw them into the comment box, and we'll put them up for Larry to address. And normally there's a couple of questions, so we'll see if anyone has any at this point. Yeah, those are all great points, Larry. And like you said, if you need both coverage, mall coverage and the other coverage that you offer, better look into it. You never know.
If you're going to do mall work, and you're working now, if you're working directly for somebody and you're not going to do any work on your own, a lot of them have gone to where they're just providing all the coverage for their Santas, which is nice. But then you're pretty much captive. If you go outside of doing Santa for them, then it's not covered under theirs.
Yeah, correct. If you do a split where you do a little bit of both, then exactly. I'm with Cherry Hill, so they now pay for our insurance as part of our employment since we went to being employees recently. And
right.
But you're going to do home visits, or you're going to do parades, or you're going to do tree lighting ceremonies anywhere that you put yourself out there where something could go wrong, then you definitely need the extra coverage.
Well, that brings up a good point. In the form that we were talking about, the abuse and molestation that you were talking about, because of the fact that you are now an employee of Cherry Hill, their abuse and molestation policy covers them for things that you may do. That doesn't cover you, but it covers them. Not sure.
Now, true. If like Bob said, he works for Cherry Hill, they'll cover his insurance. But if you're a mall Santa and you're working for a company like Cherry Hill or something, but you want to pick up a few jobs on the side, they need to be calling you, because Cherry Hill's insurance won't cover them outside of the mall.
No.
Now, there's a question on the screen here. Larry says, group molestation policy covers you only if your Elf or Mrs. Claus gets sued. Do I understand this correctly?
That's correct. Yeah, what happens is, well, actually, you get sued because you're the business owner, basically, in this instance. But it's the Elf or Mrs. Claus that's the one that does the abuse and molestation. And that's the way the language reads in the policy. I actually went to Philadelphia Insurance Company, who is the one that wrote this, before I even started presenting anything for insurance, and said, guys, just change the wording so that it covers the members of the association, and it specifically covers the members for abuse and molestation. I said, then that would take care of it. And they didn't do anything. I mean, not one thing. They told me I had to talk to their agent. I was like, I am one of your agents. I represent the company too. I said, why don't you just come up with this? And they didn't want to because of the potential liability.
Yeah. All right. So everyone stay with us, because at this time, it's time for the weekly POV, point of view. Tonight, Larry's going to do a POV segment titled Figure Out What Kind of Santa You Are. We're going to do that right after this little intro. All right, brother, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, actually, I mean, I won't take a whole lot of time. There's so many different types of Santas. I've run into so many different people that are just amazing people. There's the Santas that just do mall work, and those guys, I commend them. I don't know how you sit there and go through that many children at a time. But you just really don't get to spend the time with them that you'd like to a lot of times. But that is a very, very hard job, in my opinion. But that's a great Santa to be. I personally, I like being doing corporate work. So if you want to be doing corporate work for people or home visits, those Santas do an amazing job, and that's where the magic or other types of entertaining have to come into play. You have to be able to interact with people at different age levels, which is a little different. I treat them all like kids, which is nice. So that's another type of Santa that you could be. You could do just corporate work. You could be just a corporate Santa. You could be a photographer Santa. Photographer Santas do a wonderful job. They don't spend as much time with children. It's mostly just there for the pictures. But there's a lot of Santas I know that they just do photography work. They don't even get involved with doing home visits or corporate work. So it's really just figure out what it is that you feel comfortable with and run with that. And if you feel comfortable doing magic, that's great. I'd love to help you. If you don't feel comfortable with that, but you want to be just the Santa that gives away the candy canes and sits and has your pictures taken with them, with the kids, families, that's a great Santa also. We all have our place. And there are needs for every single type of Santa that I just mentioned. And I'm sure there's more that I didn't even. Well, that's pretty much it. I just can't imagine anything else. If you just be yourself, but if you can be Santa.
Exactly. All right, so at this time, let's reveal tonight's trivia answers. And for the first trivia question, sponsored by Sleigh Driver Apparel Company, Derek Dugan in the Muppet Christmas Carol, who takes on the role of Marley. That was actually two different characters, Statler and Waldorf. And in Spangle's trivia question, in the movie Fred Claus, what song plays during the opening chase scene? Surfing Bird. Bird, bird, bird. Bird is a word. Like I said, it gets in your head and you can't get rid of it. Oh my goodness, Larry. Here's a big one from Gordon Bailey.
Okay.
It defends you in the event you get charged with the offense. If you're asked first, answer honestly to the representative. If you say no, then your defense is up to the limit of the policy, either 3K or 5K. If you say yes, they will pay out ASAP and you will never get insurance again. This was explained to me by the agent, Mr. Waters, who has since passed, but still the policy is offered due to schools, corporate, and Bass Pro Shops, and mall required. So I guess that's his response back to what his question earlier.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is, if you actually read the policy, I never take an agent's word for anything, because and I hate to say it this way, and there's nothing negative. Please don't take it negatively. Is that agents do the best they can, but when you go through and you actually read the policy and you read the policy form, and I have copies of it, and I've highlighted, and I had attorneys review the policy. I had literally paid attorneys to review the policy and tell me what the language meant from a legality standpoint. And the way I described it was the way it was told to me. And in fact, one of the guys that helped me put this together when I first did it left our USLI, which is the carrier that we use, and went to Philadelphia. But he was the one that actually brought up the fact that there was actually no coverage for the performer at Atlanta under the Philadelphia policy. And the two clauses in there, one was talking about the fact that criminal acts are not covered, and that is considered a criminal act regardless of who you are. So that's just my response to that. But the best thing to do is, you don't have to rely on me. Get a copy of the policy from the agent. If you think it's covered and you want to make sure, read the policy. And if somebody has a question on it, I've got copies of the policies. I'd be happy to send it to them and send them the highlighted pages that show exactly what it is, and that's in plain language. So I'd be happy to do that. The only reason we came out with this program, started presenting it to you guys, was because we saw that gap and that missing item.
Charlie Johnson says, great interview with Larry. And how do you cover it? I'm not sure what.
Sorry to say that there's not a policy out there that's going to cover a criminal act.
A blanket.
Blanket's about as close as you're going to get. And when you're in prison, keep that blanket tight.
Very true. All right, Larry, we know that you're going to be doing a presentation at the School of Santas, which Spangle mentioned earlier, July 14th.
Yeah.
You'll also be a vendor there for the 4 days that the school is in operation for this year. It seems you're always getting asked this question, though. What's next? You got anything planned for the rest of the year?
Yeah, actually, we do. We have a couple of new magic tricks that will be coming out. We have one that just got re-released, which is really cool. It's called Color Match. In fact, it's on our website. Color Match is one where you basically take a picture, you give it to one of the children that's in an envelope, and they have some magic markers, and while they're holding the envelope, they color a picture in front of you with different colors, and then you tell them that you think so much like them, and you know what they want and what the colors that they would place, every place on this picture, and when they open up the envelope, that picture is colored exactly the way that they colored the one that was blank originally. So hopefully I'll explain that well enough. But it's a great magic trick called Color Match. It's actually on my website. But that's one of the ones I'll be presenting at one of the schools. At some of the schools. So
where else are you gonna be doing presentations this year? I know you mentioned Doug earlier, and of course you're always at Rick's.
Yeah, I'll be at Northern Lights Santa Academy coming up, doing presentations there. I'll be doing for both insurance as well as magic. I'll be doing that with Spangles. Coming up at School of Santas. I'll be doing it with Doug over in Charlotte. Actually, all I do there, right now, all he's got me as a vendor. I don't really do anything other than be a vendor for magic, and I do insurance presentations because he likes our insurance program too. But other than that, any place anybody calls me and says, "Hey, would you come and tell us a little bit about it?" I am more than happy to be there, and I have thoroughly enjoyed being with you guys today. This has been awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, Larry, thanks, brother, for coming on with us, and we will see you in Branson.
Awesome. See you there.
All right.
Thank you so much. Great job as always. And of course, I'll see you in a couple of weeks at Branson also. We want to say a great big thank you to our sponsor, Derek Dugan, Sleigh Driver Apparel, also StuffForSanta.com, SchoolOfSantas.com, Mr. Spangle here. Our recorded videos can be seen on our Facebook group as well as our YouTube channel at the Tuesday Night Live Show. And real quick before we get away, Gordon Bailey asked me if I would pass this along. Mrs. Claus, A Whole New World, 2 days, August 13th and 14th in Honey Grove, Texas. Santa and the Business Being Santa, 10 to 5, $175 for Mrs. Claus, $125 for Santa. You can reach Chrissy Kovic at Satbob's Mrs. Claus at gmail.com. And so we pass that along. All right, so thanks to everyone for watching. We couldn't do this without you. Remember to join us for our next Tuesday Night Live each week, 7 p.m., same Claus time, same Claus channel. Count your blessings, not your sorrows. Have a blessed week. Until next time, on behalf of Spangle and Angela and Larry, I'm Santa Bob McMaster saying good night. God bless.
See you later.